Hello everyone, my name is Donna, but you can call me Elizabeth. Today I'm very happy to be here to practice English by myself. I want to practice English with my partner, but she is very busy because if we practice together, we have to practice more than 45 minutes. If we practice myself, by yourself, you will practice 30 minutes because that everyone is busy. But today I'm not busy. I have many free time to budget, but no one can budget with me, so I have to write it by myself. I have to write it for three parts. Part one, I will listening. Part two, I will reading the story which I have studied at 20 January the 28th. And then the last I will write it about my proteins. The first day in my company and the first day I have choice many things, new things, and I have a new journey for my land in 2023. Now, now we have to. I will sharing the premier moment. The. I will open the material of yes, and now I will share it. I don't think I have to share it. Yes, I will. Yeah, I will open my yellow and I read the book. Yes, now I will read a book. Blue Moon Valley is a small village. Listen lives there with her grandmother. She is very happy in Blue Moon Valley, but there is a problem. Lisun's grandmother is very old and very ill. She can't work. She cannot work anymore and has no money. One bright April morning, he said to Li Shun, "Sit down, granddaughter. I have something to tell you." "What is it, grandmother?" asked Li Sun. The old woman's eyes are sad and tired. "Read this letter," she said. "It's for your uncle in the big city. I want you to go and talk to him. Listen, listen, read the letter." "But," she said and looked at her grandmother, "you are asking him to give me a job in his circus?" "Yes," the old woman answered. Listen, and her grandmother talked for a long time. Listen does not want to leave Blue Moon Valley. "It's my home," she said. "But every child leaves home one day," the old woman answered. "And you're not a child now, you're a young woman. I want you to be free." In the end, Nathan looked at the floor and said, "Yes, grandmother." 2 days later, she left the village. In the next week, Nathan worked a long way. She sees mountains, fields, trees, and farms. Every morning she drinks from cool rivers. Every night she sleeps under thousands of bright stars. Then after 8 days, she comes to the big city. It has a high wall with stone lions on the top of them. Hundreds of people are running left and right in front of her. Excuse me, she says to an old man. Do you know this address? Do you know this address? Do you know this address? She shows him her grandmother letter. You want the circus? He says. That's easy. Go down the street and turn left at the end. 10 minutes later, listen at the circus. Her uncle very happy to see her. Yes, of course, you can have a job. He said, come with me. Behind the circus, there are some big cases. Here we are. Say, listen, uncle. You can help to watch the animals. He smiled. And you can help to give them their food too. Do you understand? Listen, look at all the animals. There's a monkey, tiger, elephant, foxy, and lion. Then she looked at her uncle again. Yes, uncle, she says. Listen, worked very hard for 3 months every week. She writes to her grandmother in her letter. In her letter, she says, I'm very happy, but she ignores. She tells her only friends, Choo choo the banda, I want to go home. Then one day her uncle said, the empress is coming here tomorrow. I want all the animals to be very, very clean. All right? Yes, of course. Oh, of course, said Listen. The next morning, Listen is giving the tiger their food. Suddenly, she hears her uncle say, You got another job? She opened the long red curtain. Her uncle is talking to Yumei. She works with Wuti, the horseman. Yes, said the Yumei. I'm leaving today. Goodbye. I'm leaving today. Goodbye. After she left, Lisan's uncle looked at Gucci. Now what can we do? He asked. A moment later, she said, Listen. Of course, he says, listen. She can help you this evening. What? Gucci laughed. But she can't learn you me job in one day. Do you have another answer? Asked Lisan's uncle. Gucci said nothing. In 10 minutes, Lisan is wearing Yume's circus clothes. In the evening, that evening, the emperor arrived at 7 o'clock. He is wearing a beautiful gold clothes. He sits down and watches the circus. Then at the end, he talks to Lisan's uncle. Who is that new girl with your horseman? he asked. Her name is Listen, comes the answer. The emperor smiled. She is young, but very good. Oh, thank you. Emperor, say listen, uncle. That's after that evening. Listen, the not clean the any small cases anymore. She worked with Gucci every day, but that's in not all. She started to love the housemen too. They often work in a beautiful park next to the emperor's place. There's one day in October, Gucci put a hand in a hand on Lisa's arm. You make me very happy, she said. I want you to be my wife. Lisa does not know what to say. She wants to be Virgil's wife, but not here in the big city. She wants to live with him at home in a blue moon village. She wants to live with him. She tells him this and looks into his eye. Can you understand? She asked. Virgil looked down. I don't know. He answered. My home is here in the city. Let's meeting about. We can talk again tomorrow. It's a very long night for Listen. She cannot sleep. She goes to see her old friend Chuchu. Oh, what's she going to say tomorrow? What's what's she what's she going to say tomorrow? She asked the panther. Am I doing the right thing? I love him, but I can't live in the city. Don't I don't like it. My home back in the Blue Moon Valley. Chuchu looked at listened. His eyes are big, brown, and sad. Early next morning, Gucci find Listen in the panda cage. Come with me, he said. They go to see Listen's uncle. Gucci has something to tell him. Listen going to be my wife, he said. But not all. That but that's not all. We are living in the circus. I'm going to be a farmer in Blue Moon Valley. Oh, would she? Say Alison. She is very happy. 1 week later, Listen and Gucci leave the city. Everyone's come to say goodbye. Then, the last minute, 4 men arrive. They are carrying a big box. What's this? Asked Listen. It's something from on the earth, say her uncle. Please open it. Listen opens the box. Choo choo, she said, oh, uncle, thank you. Let's rebuild. Answer the full English sentence. Why the nation leave Blue Moon Valley? Listen, leave Blue Moon Valley because she needs a job. Why the Listen work in a big city? Listen work in a big city because it's unfortunate. In the first 3 months, what the Listen do in the circus? For the first 3 months, Listen watch and freeze the animal. Uh, how can Listen meet Gucci? Listen want to be a Wuchi wife. Wuchi work with Yumi, but she leave her job. Listen, uncle want Listen to work with Wuchi. What did Listen say when Wuchi want her to be his wife? She want to live in the city to live, to live. When Wuchi and Listen leave, what did Listen uncle do? He gave them a choo-choo. He gave them choo-choo as a gift. Make a story. Pick up 5 words that you like the most. Make up a story using the word. Post your story on Facebook and Hotstart footage. Discuss with your partner. Where do you want to live? In a city or in the countryside? Why? What are advantages and disadvantages? Approach. Yes, make a story. I think that I will make a story with 3 words and make the story. It's rather challenge for me. I think I will do this uh this task tomorrow. And now I have finished for reading, and now I have to listen. I think I will listen.
Section 1.
Hello, Tourist Information Centre. Mike speaking. How can I help you?
Oh, hi. I wanted to find out about cookery classes. I believe there are some one-day classes for tourists.
Well, they're open to everyone, but tourists are always welcome. Okay, let me give you some details of what's available. There are several classes. One very popular one is at the Food Studio.
Okay.
They focus on seasonal products, and as well as teaching you how to cook them, they also show you how to choose them.
Right, that sounds good. How big are the classes?
I'm not sure exactly, but they'll be quite small.
And could I get a private lesson there?
I think so. Let me check. Yes, they do offer those. Though, in fact, most of the people who attend the classes find it's a nice way of getting to know one another.
I suppose it must be, yes.
And this company has a special deal for clients where they offer a discount of 20% if you return for a further class.
Okay, but you said there were several classes.
That's right. Another one you might be interested in is Bond's Cookery School. They're quite new. They just opened 6 months ago, but I've heard good things about them. They concentrate on teaching you to prepare healthy food. and they have quite a lot of specialist staff.
So, is that food for people on a diet and things like that? I don't know if I'd be interested in that.
Well, I don't think they particularly focus on low-calorie diets or weight loss. It's more to do with recipes that look at specific needs, like including ingredients that will help build up your bones and make them stronger, that sort of thing.
I see. Well, I might be interested. I'm not sure. Do they have a website I could check?
Yes, just key in the name of the school, it'll come up. And if you want to know more about them, every Thursday evening they have a lecture at the school. It's free, and you don't need to book or anything. Just turn up at 7:30. And that might give you an idea of whether you want to go to an actual class. Okay, there's one more place you might be interested in. That's got a rather strange name. It's called the Aretsa Centre. That's spelled A-R-R-E-T-S-A.
Okay.
They've got a very good reputation. They do a bit of meat and fish cookery, but they mostly specialise in vegetarian dishes.
Right. That's certainly an area I'd like to learn more about. I've got lots of friends who don't eat meat. In fact, I think I might have seen that school today. Is it just by the market?
That's right. So they don't have any problem getting their ingredients. They're right next door. And they also offer a special 2-hour course in how to use a knife. They cover all the different skills, buying them, sharpening, chopping techniques. It gets booked up quickly though, so you'd need to check it was available.
Right, well, thank you very much. I'll go and check that out.
That is Section 2.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Phil Sutton, and I'm chairman of the Highways Committee. We've called this meeting to inform members of the public about the new regulations for traffic and parking we're proposing for Granford. I'll start by summarising these changes before we open the meeting to questions. So, why do we need to make these changes to traffic systems in Granford? Well, we're very aware that traffic is becoming an increasing problem. It's been especially noticeable with the increase in heavy traffic while they've been building the new hospital. But it's the overall rise in the volume of traffic of all kinds that's concerning us. To date, there's not been any increase in traffic accidents, but that's not something we want to see happen, obviously. We recently carried out a survey of local residents, and their responses were interesting. People were very concerned about the lack of visibility on some roads due to cars parked along the sides of the roads. We'd expected complaints about the congestion near the school when parents are dropping off their children or picking them up. But this wasn't top of the list, and nor were noise and fumes from trucks and lorries, though they were mentioned by some people. We think these new traffic regulations would make a lot of difference, but we still have a long way to go. We've managed to keep our proposals within budget, just so they can be covered by the council. But of course it's no good introducing new regulations if we don't have a way of making sure that everyone obeys them. And that's an area we're still working on with the help of representatives from the police force. Okay, so this slide shows a map of the central area of Granford with the High Street in the middle and School Road on the right. Now, we already have a set of traffic lights in the High Street at the junction with Station Road, but we're planning to have another set at the other end at the School Road junction to regulate the flow of traffic along the High Street. We've decided we definitely need a pedestrian crossing. We considered putting this on School Road just outside the school, but in the end we decided that could lead to a lot of traffic congestion. So we decided to locate it on the High Street, crossing the road in front of the supermarket. That's a very busy area, so it should help things there. We are proposing some changes to parking. At present, Parking isn't allowed on the high street outside the library, but we're going to change that and allow parking there, but not at the other end of the high street near School Road. There'll be a new no parking sign on School Road just by the entrance to the school, forbidding parking for 25 metres. This should improve visibility for drivers and pedestrians, especially on the bend just to the north of the school. As far as disabled drivers are concerned, at present they have parking outside the supermarket, but lorries also use those spaces, so we've got 2 new disabled parking spaces on the side road up towards the bank. It's not ideal, but probably better than the present arrangement. We also plan to widen the pavement on School Road. We think we can manage to get an extra ½ metre on the bend just before you get to the school, on the same side of the road. Finally, we've introduced new restrictions on loading and unloading for the supermarket, so lorries will only be allowed to stop there before 8 AM. That's the supermarket on School Road. We kept to the existing arrangements with the High Street supermarket. OK, so that's about it.
Section 3.
We've got to choose a topic for our experiment, haven't we, Jack? Were you thinking of something to do with seeds?
That's right. I thought we could look at seed germination, how a seed begins to grow.
Okay. Any particular reason? I know you're hoping to work in plant science eventually.
Yeah, but practically everything we do is going to feed into that. No, there's an optional module on seed structure and function in the 3rd year that I might do. So I thought it might be useful for that. If I choose that option, I don't have to do a dissertation module.
Good idea.
Well, I thought for this experiment, we could look at the relationship between seed size and the way the seeds are planted. So we could plant different sized seeds in different ways and see which grow best.
Okay. We'd need to allow time for the seeds to come up.
That should be fine if we start now. A lot of the other possible experiments need quite a bit longer.
So that'd make it a good one to choose. And I don't suppose it'd need much equipment. We're not doing chemical analysis or anything. Though that's not really an issue. We've got plenty of equipment in the laboratory.
Yeah, we need to have a word with the tutor if we're going to go ahead with it, though. I'm sure our aim's okay. It's not very ambitious, but the assignment's only 10% of our final mark, isn't it? But we need to be sure we're the only ones doing it.
Yeah, it's only 5% actually, but it'd be a bit boring if everyone was doing it.
Did you read that book on seed germination on our reading list?
The one by Graves? I looked through it for my last experiment, though it wasn't all that relevant there. It would be for this experiment, though. I found it quite hard to follow. Lots about the theory, which I hadn't expected.
Yes, I'd been hoping for something more practical. It does include references to the recent findings on genetically modified seeds, though.
Yes, that was interesting.
I read an article about seed germination by Lee Hall.
About seeds that lie in the ground for ages and only germinate after a fire.
That's the one. I knew a bit about it already, but not about this research. His analysis of figures comparing the times of the fires and the proportion of seeds that germinated was done in a lot of detail. Very impressive.
Was that the article with the illustrations of early stages of plant development? They were very clear.
I think those diagrams were in another article.
Anyway, shall we have a look at the procedure for our experiment? We'll need to get going with it quite soon.
Right. So the first thing we have to do is find our seeds. I think vegetable seeds would be best. And obviously they mustn't all be the same size. So how many sorts do we need? About 4 different ones?
I think that would be enough. There'll be quite a large number of seeds for each one.
Then for each seed, we need to find out how much it weighs and also measure its dimensions. And we need to keep a careful record of all that.
That'll be quite time-consuming. And we also need to decide how deep we're going to plant the seeds. Right on the surface, a few millimeters down, or several centimeters.
Okay, so then we get planting. Do you think we can plant several seeds together in the same plant pot?
No, I think we need a different one for each seed.
Right. And we'll need to label them. We can use different coloured labels. Then we wait for the seeds to germinate. I reckon that'll be about 3 weeks, depending on what the weather's like. Then we see if our plants have come up and write down how tall they've grown.
Then all we have to do is look at our numbers and see if there's any relation between them.
That's right. So then...
Section 4.
Hi. Today we're going to be looking at animals in urban environments. And I'm going to be telling you about some research on how they're affected by these environments. Now, in evolutionary terms, urban environments represent huge upheavals, the sorts of massive changes that usually happen over millions of years. And we used to think that only a few species could adapt to this new environment. One species which is well known as being highly adaptable is the crow, and there have been various studies about how they manage to learn new skills. Another successful species is the pigeon, because they're able to perch on ledges on the walls of city buildings, just like they once perched on cliffs by the sea. But in fact, we're now finding that these early immigrants were just the start of a more general movement of animals into cities, and of adaptation by these animals to city life. And one thing that researchers are finding especially interesting is the speed with which they're doing this. We're not talking about gradual evolution here. These animals are changing fast. Let me tell you about some of the studies that have been carried out in this area. So, in the University of Minnesota, a biologist called Emily Snellrud and her colleagues looked at specimens of urbanized small mammals such as mice and gophers that had been collected in Minnesota and that are now kept in museums there. And she looked at specimens that had been collected over the last 100 years, which is a very short time in evolutionary terms. And she found that during that time, these small mammals had experienced a jump in brain size when compared to rural mammals. Now, we can't be sure this means they're more intelligent, but since the sizes of other parts of the body didn't change, it does suggest that something cognitive was going on. And Snellrud thinks that this change might reflect the cognitive demands of adjusting to city life, having to look in different places to find food, for example, and coping with a whole new set of dangers. Then over in Germany, at the Max Planck Institute, there's another biologist called Katharina Miranda, who's done some experiments with blackbirds living in urban and rural areas. And she's been looking not at their anatomy, but at their behavior. So, as you might expect, she's found that the urban blackbirds tend to be quite bold. They're prepared to face up to a lot of threats that would frighten away their country counterparts. But there's one type of situation that does seem to frighten the urban blackbirds, and that's anything new, anything they haven't experienced before. And if you think about it, that's quite sensible for a bird living in the city. Jonathan Atwell in Indiana University is looking at how a range of animals respond to urban environments. He's found that when they're under stress, their endocrine systems react by reducing the amount of hormones such as corticosterone into their blood. It's a sensible-seeming adaptation. A rat that gets scared every time a subway train rolls past, won't be very successful. There's just one more study I'd like to mention, which is by Sarah Parton and her team. And they've been looking at how squirrels communicate in an urban environment. And they've found that a routine part of their communication is carried out by waving their tails. You do also see this in the country, but it's much more prevalent in cities, possibly because it's effective in a noise.
Yes, I think that we have to finish today. Yes, we have finished to record today. Goodbye and see you.